Hi, it's Dr. Russ, and today we have Evie, and we're going to be looking at Evie's middle back and upper back. So just getting a general sense of what's going on, we can see the surface evidence of her scoliosis here, where she's got a loss of the curve here, a little bit of an exaggerated curve here, and a slight rightward deviation with some rotation through here. She experiences tension through her neck and upper back, which is basically because her middle back doesn't quite bear weight and doesn't have the adaptability, so her neck has to take up a lot of the slack. So she gets fatigue through the upper trapezius, the splenius muscles, sometimes in the scalene muscles as well, and sometimes this all affects her lower back too. But today we're going to focus from here to here, where her symptoms are primarily across the neck and shoulders, but we want to make sure that we're mobilizing all the fascia and segments through here to take as much stress as possible off of the neck. So Evie, if you're ready, come lie face down. Take a deep breath here, Evie. So I can feel the rib mobility and out. And it's really quite good. Evie's been taking good care of herself. Breathe in. And breathe out. Got a little section with less mobile ribs on the right side, and say ribs 6 through 8. Getting a sense of her upper traps, levator, rhomboids, and this is where more tension seems to come through. So our goals so far are we want to get these right ribs moving. We want to take some pressure off of her upper traps and levator, and by doing so I think what we need to do is get some movement through the scapulae. So nice deep breath again, and out. So I have Evie side-lying here, which is a position I love to work in on the shoulder. So I have access from her iliac crest, her QL, all of the lumbar vertebrae, through the thoracolumbar junction, all the ribs, the rhomboid, the upper trap, and definitely importantly her serratus anterior, latissimus, and rotator cuff here. So I can use her arm as a lever and get a sense of the movement of her scapula here. And I want to be able to see that scapula moving really freely with humeral movement, and it's getting hung up right about here. And I can feel that the restriction is on the upper scapula, the levator scap kind of having a hard time letting go. So we're just going to gently induce that movement. We don't need to be forceful at all. Nothing quick needs to happen here. Good. It's really important to get the scapula mobile on the rib cage before you start to mobilize the ribs or before you start to mobilize the glenohumeral joint. That's the ball and socket of the shoulder. Good. So now we can hang out here. You okay there, Evie?
Yes.
Good. And we're going to do a little bit of rib work on these segments right here. So deep breaths, in and out. Good. So again, starting skin level. We don't want to skip any steps. We want to make sure skin and superficial fascia are nice and mobile. Over the latissimus here, and now working on the serratus anterior. And as always, trying to keep my fingers flat on that serratus, not digging in, and stretching and mobilizing that into this opening external rotation. Good. Taking care to keep the gout on her. You okay, Evie?
Yes.
Good. We had a nice little release right there, where this slip around rib 7 on the serratus anterior seems to be one that is troublesome on a lot of people. You want to be careful also right in here as you have the long thoracic nerve running in this area. So it's really important that this is moving so that nerve doesn't get entrapped, but also another reason not to dig in. Good. And releasing that gave us some nice mobility through her ribs, which is good. Let's look at this here now, moving to the scapulohumeral joint, the glenohumeral, the AC, the subacromial space. And again, that shoulder abduction is such an important movement. Abduction, extension, external rotation, And as I do these movements, I can feel a big knot right here. We call that the posterior fold of the axilla. And it's made up of triceps, latissimus, teres major, and minor. And it's really important to get movement here. Let your elbow just bend for me. Good. So I like this angle. You can see I'm getting in there with my fingertip between the triceps and the latissimus here. You okay? Mm-hmm. Good. There's some traction on the shoulder here, so you want to check in with folks and make sure it's not too much. And right there, you can see her tension up a little bit, so that's painful, but that's really kind of a quite little restricted spot. So gently getting some movement in there. Good. That's nice and loose now. Moves really well. You want to follow that triceps down, that intermuscular septum. People do have a lot of trouble with their triceps, and it's a space not a lot of body workers work on. So I always like to make sure and check in there. Good. Getting some traction through the forearm, stretching her wrist extensors. All the phone and computer stuff we do really stresses out our wrist and finger extensors. So it's nice to check in with those. A little trigger point right here. Yeah, you can see the little bit of a twitch sign there. So now with Evie supine, I have nice access to the clavicle here, the front of the shoulder, that pectoral insertion right there, the whole upper trapezius here, scalenes and levator. And we're going to start on her right side so you can see. I like to start under the clavicle, and this is sensitive territory, so we want to be gentle. Make sure we're not pulling the skin too much, but we do want to get movement through the clavicle here. So as I use my hands to get under the clavicle, elevate it a little bit, get a little stretch on that subclavius muscle, and work the origin of the clavicular portion of the pectoralis major, following that out to the tubercle on the humerus. Right there. Transitions into upper trapezius from the acromion all along the spine of the scapula. And we're really starting to feel a little restriction through the lower cervical segments. Right here, C5, 6. We want to make sure that's nice and mobile. So as I rotate and side bend her head, I really want to get a sense of a nice gliding of the fascia and the layers of muscle in relation to the spine and in relation to each other. So we want to look at rotation, extension, side bending, and just kind of gently taking each segment through that range of motion so we can see where the restrictions are. And it's lower cervical on Evie today, C5, 6. I'm going to work up under the occiput here, getting her rectus capitis muscles, this upper attachment of the splenius capitis, and remember that there's a lot of fascia in the cranium as well. So we're going to work up through the occiput, the temporalis muscle, gently. Good. A lot of times as you traction posteriorly on the temporalis muscle, you can feel a little slack coming into that suboccipital space, and that's a really nice thing to feel, like a connection in there. Good. We're not going to do too much on her TMJ today, but we'll definitely check in with her masseter right here. I'm going to switch sides now. And the same approach to her left shoulder. Clavicle, subclavicular space, pectoralis major, clavicular division, transitioning into upper trap, suboccipitals, temporalis. So here on her left side, it's a lot more of a sense of restriction in the upper trap. And again, we don't want to overwork this, but we do want to give it some TLC. So I've got the upper trap belly right between my thumb and my forefinger, and I'm not gonna rail on it real hard, but I do want to get in there, apply some direct pressure, flush out that congestion, make space for some fresh blood. Good. And again, taking the left side of her neck through that rotation, side bending, and extension. And that's good. Feels more mobile on this side. There is a sense of restriction in the COC1 joint on the left. So we're going to look at adjusting that. And her left SCM as well. Eve, can we do a little neck adjustment for you today?
Yes.
Yep. Good. Good. Okay, so we're going to start with the C5-6 on the right. It's going to be a traction with my right hand and a thrust with the left. A nice deep breath in and let it on out. Just very quick and gentle. Easy. Okay. We're going to approach the occiput from the left side as well. It's a little posterior superior on the left, so it's kind of a scoop with my left hand in this direction. Nice deep breath. Chin up a tiny bit, and then let it rest. Good. Good. And then now that that's all mobile, we're going to take it through a nice full range of motion, really gently. Just bring all those soft tissues through a full range of motion. Give it a little traction. Check in again with everything. See if anything's still really catching our attention. I think we did pretty well. Great. Thanks, Evie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.